Welcome back to APT Opinion. I'm your host, and today we are diving deep into a story that has rocked the British monarchy, reverberated across the Atlantic, and reopened painful wounds from the dark history of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking empire. It's a story about power, privilege, and accountability, and it centers on one man, once a prince, now stripped of titles, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. So what's happened? Just this past Friday, October 17th, Prince Andrew announced that he would no longer use his Duke of York title or the associated honours. He won't be signing documents as KG for Knight of the Garter anymore, and other titles he once held, like the Earl of Inverness and Baron Killyleagh, will go dormant. Effectively, he's retreating further into the shadows of private life, though technically he retains the dukedom that can only be removed by Parliament. So why this decision? It comes right on the heels of a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers, published in Australia on October 21st. In Nobody's Girl, Giuffre gives a harrowing account of a time under Epstein's control, describing a life she feared might end in perpetual abuse. And among the explosive allegations, she recounts 3 encounters with Andrew, including one involving Epstein and several other young women. Now, to be clear, Andrew has repeatedly denied these allegations. But here's the context. He settled a civil sexual assault case with Giuffre in 2022, reportedly paying around £12 million. That settlement alone sent shockwaves through the UK, raising questions about accountability, privilege, and how money can shield powerful individuals from the full weight of the law. In her memoir, Giuffre details encounters in London, New York, and Epstein's private Caribbean island. She alleges that Andrew knew she was underage, 17, and yet engaged in sexual activity with her. One particularly chilling excerpt describes the mechanics of the encounter, including Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell orchestrating the situation, Giuffre providing sexual services to Andrew and being paid $15,000 afterward. Giuffre writes, quote, "He seemed in a rush to have intercourse. Afterward, he said thank you in his clipped British accent. In my memory, the whole thing lasted less than half an hour." Unquote. The cruelty and entitlement she describes is stark and deeply disturbing. Andrew's ties to Epstein were long-standing. They reportedly began in the 1990s, and Andrew frequented Epstein's elite social circles in both the US and UK. He stayed at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse, his private island, and flew on Epstein's private jet, the infamous Lolita Express, on multiple occasions. Recent documents released by the US House Oversight Committee even show Andrew listed as a passenger on Epstein's jet from Luton to Edinburgh in 2006. And while Andrew insisted publicly that he cut ties with Epstein in 2010, newly surfaced emails suggest otherwise. One email sent 3 months after a 2019 BBC interview where he claimed to have ended their friendship reportedly read, "We are in this together." Now, let's pause for a moment. Think about the implications here. This is not just about a prince making mistakes. This is about a pattern of behavior enabled by privilege, wealth, and the power structures around him. Epstein's victims, like Giuffre, had none of those advantages. Their voices were suppressed for years, while Andrew's reputation carried on with royal protection. Andrew's retreat from royal titles is significant. He has effectively surrendered public recognition while technically retaining hereditary honours. His ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, will no longer use her title either. But their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, remain unaffected. He will continue living in the Royal Lodge mansion near Windsor Castle, a property leased from the Crown Estate, meaning it cannot be sold. A reminder that some privileges remain untouched, even amid scandal. But why now? Why give up the titles? In his statement, Andrew emphasized duty to his family and country. and the distraction that continued accusations posed to King Charles and the royal household. He claims this is about protecting the monarchy. Critics, however, see it as a reaction to mounting public pressure, the posthumous memoir, and the undeniable damage to the monarchy's reputation. Giuffre's family welcomed the move as vindication, stating that it was appropriate for King Charles to remove the title of prince, a symbolic acknowledgement of the pain endured by survivors everywhere. Let's not forget the broader picture. Prince Andrew is far from the only figure to have been enmeshed in scandals. His association with Epstein ties him to a network of abuse and exploitation, and the recent memoir only reinforces the depth of those connections. And while Epstein died by suicide in a US federal jail in 2019, awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, his legacy of harm continues to implicate those around him. Andrew's story is also a cautionary tale of power and impunity. Once a celebrated Royal Navy officer in the Falklands War, once widely regarded as the late Queen Elizabeth's favorite, he has now become a symbol of scandal, secrecy, and the limits of accountability for the elite. Stripped of titles, removed from royal duties, facing enduring scrutiny, Andrew's fall from grace is total. In conclusion, this is a story of abuse, accountability, and the weight of privilege colliding with public scrutiny. Prince Andrew may have surrendered his titles, but the questions about his conduct, his ties to Epstein, and the systemic protections that allowed such behavior to continue will linger. Virginia Giuffre's memoir even posthumously shines a light on these truths, ensuring her voice, her story, and her experiences are part of the historical record. From APT Opinion, this has been a deep dive into the saga of Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, and Virginia Giuffre. It's a story that challenges institutions, questions power, and reminds us all of the importance of justice, accountability, and giving survivors a platform to speak. Stay tuned for more updates as the story develops, and as always, thank you for joining us on APT Opinion.
Well, I'm not sure, Andrew.